Talk about energy. Wow. Thank you, that was great. So, it's good to be here. My goodness, what practically a full house. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to talk today about 3 questions. And the first question was asked by Buckminster Fuller. How many of you here are familiar with Buckminster Fuller? Okay. Buckminster Fuller was a very wonderful man, known as one of the greatest minds of our centuries. And he had been very successful in his business, but everything kind of went wrong, and he lost his business, and he was there just about, almost broke. And what he did is he discovered that he was no longer able to really care for his family. He had one little daughter that had died, and so he blamed that on the fact that the house they lived in was drafty and all that. And so he was trying to figure out what he was going to do. So the thought came to him, I have this very nice insurance policy, and there would be enough money there for me to take care of my wife and daughter. Maybe I should just commit suicide. So he's standing on the shore of the lake around Chicago. And he's pondering, he's kind of looking up all around. And a question came into his mind. And the mind was, is the universe intelligent? And he was a very well-educated man. He knew all this, and he thought to himself, of course the universe is intelligent. We just happen to know that the universe is so fine-tuned by whatever creation caused it to be, that just a tiny little bit of a change, 21% oxygen, no more and no less. If it was more, then even the wetlands would burst into flame. And in other words, if it were less, then it would be cold. So he said, well, if the universe is intelligent, there must be some reason for me being here. So what he did is he took that knowledge, he took 2 years, he sequestered himself, and he really got into all the things and the knowing, and he came away and became one of the people who is most known for his wonderful inventions, if you know anything about him. So what was the first question? Is the universe intelligent? The second question, is the universe benevolent? Well, now, Einstein has actually, when I was growing up, I grew up in Oklahoma, and we were told, if you go away to college, be very careful. Those scientists are all atheists, and beware of Einstein for sure. So, anyway, when you start reading Einstein, you find all these things. He said, I do not believe in a God that is malicious. I do not believe in a God that would punish. Doesn't sound like he was, very atheist, does it? And then one of the people who's influenced me the most in my thinking and in my whole spiritual life is a Jesuit priest named Teilhard de Chardin. Some of you may know Teilhard de Chardin. I have a T-shirt, and there's a saying on the front of it that said, my deepest faith, if there is something loving at the essence of the evolving universe. So, is the universe benevolent? Is the universe loving? Okay. What's the third question? Third question may be even more exciting, is the third question actually was answered by Carl Jung. And Carl Jung says, at the heart of every person, every man and every woman, there is an archetype of divinity. And we have within us, each one of us, a connection. So we have a connection with an intelligent, benevolent universe that we are so in connection with that we are the manifestation of it here on earth. Yeah, I like the amens. I came from... So what does that mean as far as what's happening to us individually and collectively in the world? And I think it's very important for us to examine that at this particular time, because we are living at a time when it appears that everything is going wrong, don't we? I have some quotes that I want to give you from various people and their take on what this is, and I'm going to get this so I can quote them. This one comes from Carl Sagan. We are the product of 4.5 billion years of fortuitous, slow biological evolution. There is no reason to think that the evolutionary process has stopped. Man is a transitional animal. We are not here as the climax of creation. We are set irrevocably in I believe, a path that will take us to the stars. Now here's one of those scientists, right? I believe we're on a path that will take us to the stars. But the challenge for us is to learn how to take all this wisdom and say, how do I make that possible in my life and for me? Some of you here have heard me before. And one of the things that I talk about is you can take a very simple idea of a jigsaw puzzle. And you can say, our life can be like that. We spend a certain part of our life trying to figure out what the edge pieces are, what the frame is all around our life. And for many years, we may be trying to put somebody else's frame around it, Somebody said, this is what life is like. And so we may have grown up with a frame that said, we're all sinners, and we have to. Jesus had to die. All of those things that some of us heard as a child, and that became our frame because that's what people told it was. Many of us, and you wouldn't be here today if this had not happened to you. Many of you came to the time that said, "I don't think that's the frame for my life." So, what would be a good frame for our life? I live in an intelligent, benevolent universe that I am connected with. So if I start finding all the edge pieces that help me put that into a frame for my life, then I can start working on how my life could be, right? Anybody jigsaw puzzle people in here? Okay. Have you ever picked up a piece and said, that does not belong in my puzzle? Or then the other one, I think they left a piece out at the factory. And sometimes we kind of get into the frame of mind where we suddenly feel like, oh, the pieces are dark. How does it, and we kind of forget that those pieces are pieces we may not want in our puzzle. But what is the trick? The trick is to start looking for the colorful pieces, looking for the pieces that have the picture in them that we want. Now, we could spend a whole lot of time sitting in front of that jigsaw puzzle, looking at all these dark pieces and saying, I don't think that belongs in my puzzle, and I don't think I'm going to like this puzzle, any of those things. But there's a verse from Philippians. Some of you may not be Bible people, and some of you may be, and this is one I learned a long time ago. I actually grew up with the Bible and had a time period in my life when I wanted to throw it all out, and then discovered that there was another way to look at it. But listen to this piece. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything that's worthy of praise, think about these things. So how do we do this? How do we start looking at the picture that we know is the life that we want to create the beautiful piece that we know is there? We have a New York physicist that I quote often. He said, we might as well assume that there existed, even within the consciousness of prehistoric people, and like a picture that's waiting to be unfolded from a film, to recognize the divinity in us. So you see, we have that there. We have the capability of thinking about what we want our puzzle to look like. We have the ability to help us understand what that framework around our puzzle is. Now, one thing I've learned, that sometimes when we think we've got it, we have another idea. I mentioned Teilhard de Chardin. One of my favorite quotes of his is, because the world is always ahead of us, and always unfinished, we are in a constant exploration of the universe and ourselves. So what if our puzzle, the picture of our life, is a picture of us being in constant exploration of the picture that we want to see, the picture that is already unfolded in us, waiting to be unfolded? What if that was what our life could be? What if we could, anytime we or get into thinking the world's all wrong and everything's going bad, and remembering that every time we have moved along in our evolution, and we have moved in stages in our evolution, and every time we move from one stage to another, we get this chaos that comes up. It comes up because we've been living in this place and we've gotten kind of settled there and we feel a little comfortable and a little scared of moving, you know. But the chaos comes up because, this is my belief, that our life conditions push us ahead. Have you ever had something in your life when you thought, boy, I wish this weren't happening to me? But there's also this spirit that's pulling us, that's taking us, saying there's more. There's more. So every time we have ever moved from one stage of consciousness to another, because our life conditions have changed drastically as we've evolved, what we have is, it comes up big time. So, and every time, and I've lived through a couple of them, and every time you think it's the worst time it's ever been, right? This is the worst time we've ever had. This is the worst, you know. I have some news for you. I have a scientist who is, I'm going to talk about this afternoon, had said, we are actually living in the most peaceful time we have ever lived on Earth. And then there's something comes up, said, well, how can that be? Because look what's happening all over the world. What's happening all over the world is that we are getting ready to move into another stage of consciousness. Reverend Cherie talked about this morning. Reverend John does too, I think sometimes. We're getting ready to move into this new level of understanding of who we are and why we're here. And with every stage, we've become a little more loving, a little more peaceful. And we have tons of information that shows that that's so. And so what our challenge is, every one of us has this challenge. And the challenge is to become aware that, first of all, we live in an intelligent, benevolent universe that is so much a part of us. It's like the breathing in our hands and feet. And that we have the capability within us to continue to accelerate the process. Now, I will also tell you, my belief is everybody at some point in some time is going to become aware of this. Sometimes it takes us many lifetimes. My belief, don't say you have to believe that, my belief is we have many lifetimes to come to understand who we are and what we're here for. And when we do that, then our joy, our fulfillment is becoming aware that we are helping to bring back a different kind of world. We're helping to bring back a world where there's more loving, where our children, are not abused, where all the things that we see around us that we want to make different are what's happening now, and this chaos is it's coming up right in front of us and saying, you got to look at this, we can't do it this way anymore. Do you have the feeling when you look around today? We can't do it this way, we can't do it this way, we can't do it this way anymore. That feeling is what we need to be looking for, those pieces. Looking for that, the thing that gives us that feeling. Looking for the thing, refusing to look at what I call the news. You know why it's news? Because it's not the predominant level of thinking. So when we're tempted to look at all this and say, oh, isn't it awful? Are we ever going to get past this? What if, and if only. Remember, we are a part of what's going on. We're a part of what's not going on. We're a part of us that has within us the capability to make a difference in the world. And guess what? When we get into that mode, our life becomes so much more peaceful and so much more happy and so much more loving. James Dillett Freeman, who was the poet laureate for Unity for a number of years, has written a little poem, and I like to share this poem with almost every time I talk. It says, by looking at an acorn, small and hard and plain, could I conceive of oak trees? Or by listening to the rain, could I imagine oceans? Or could I understand the desert if my hand but held a single grain of sand? So never let me think that what I chance to see, this face, this form, these thoughts, this is all of me. For just as ancient oaks and seas that know no shore, to me there also is yet more, yet more. So as we go into meditation, I would like you to, if this works for you, I would like you to center in on the idea that I am more than I have thought I have been. I am more than I can even imagine I can be. And I am here for a purpose to bring about the awakening and the understanding that we are living in an upward, forward, progressive in the universe, and that we are an integral part of it all. So please join me